Hey, what's up guys? My name is Rodolphe and welcome to another one of my Hitfilm tutorials. Yes, I know it's been a while. I've been kind of busy doing other things with school and stuff like that, but hey, it's summer now and I am back, so let's get to it. So for this tutorial, I wanted to do something a little different than what we've been doing. Instead of making VFX for movies or something like that, we'll focus more on the title. As you can see it right here, more like a title you can use for maybe your movie trailer or whatever you're using. And of course, once you know how to make this, you can also use the same techniques to make different similar effects to it. So if you've seen my Shootout Stock Pack trailer, I sort of use a title kind of like that, so we'll go over how to do that. This tutorial might be long, so I will do my best to hurry up and get it over with so I don't keep you guys waiting too long. But hey, if you guys want to learn, then you won't mind the length, right? So yeah, as you can see it right here, the title pretty much comes from behind the camera, slams, and then the sparks fly out and you see the camera shakes. And then the sparks fall down and it kind of keeps shaking as it's going. So that's what we're going to be making today. So yeah, let's get started. Let's get a new composite shot. Let's call it tutorial. And let me just delete all these so I don't get confused by them. So yeah, first thing we're gonna need to do is do the background. And for the background, I didn't want to make something that was just a simple one color background. Like you can either have it white or black or whatever, but I wanted to kind of have the background textured. And I didn't want to use an actual texture, so I created one using Hitfilm. So let's get a plane. And it can be whatever color, it doesn't really matter. And let's go to generate clouds. Let's grab the cloud effect right here. Let's go edit it. And for the speed, make sure the 100 right there is set to 0, because if it's not, then you see that the cloud keeps moving. I mean, you might want to keep moving for something else, but for this one, we'll put it at 0 so it doesn't move. And the actual settings for this to make the texture that I like is kind of tricky, so I'm just gonna cheat a little bit and use that little screenshot I took from the other one. So pretty much we want to have the frequency at around 846. Okay, 663. And this was at 10. And again, it doesn't have to be exactly this, but it's just the settings I had for the example I made. So I just want to keep that in, so we don't have to mess around with it. So yeah, let's just go ahead and adjust these. And that's more or less how it was. Yeah. So after we're done with this, we're still in generate, and we're gonna go to vignette. And we're just gonna add a nice soft vignette around this. So let's make the width longer. Well, the height, it's about good like this. Soften it up a little bit. Horizontal stretch, something like that, just to kind of darken the edges a bit. And then it still looks like crap right now, I know, so we go to blur, and we're gonna put the iterations at 1, and we're just gonna blur it out a little bit. And as you can see, I don't know how YouTube previews this, but you can see that it is a dark background, but it kind of has a texture to it. So it's not just a regular black background, it's kind of cooler looking in a way. And one thing I forgot to mention, when you're working with lights and stuff like that, it's always best to go to Project Advanced and put it at 16-bit float. That just gives it a bit more range to the color and things like that. So now that we have our background, we can keep it at 2D, it doesn't really matter. So now we are gonna work on the text. Let me rename this background. Alright, so new layer is going to be a text layer. Let's click on text so we can edit it. And for the font, I use the font called Gunplay, and you can download it at thefont.com. I mean, I use that site a lot. It has a lot of great fonts. So if you ever need fonts for your movies, that's a cool site to check out. So yeah, let's go ahead and write. I'm doing, oh no, I'm not. Yeah, let's say it's a trailer and we want to write coming soon. Actually, coming soon to a theater near you. Alright, so now let's go ahead and go to make composite shot and make the text a composite shot. Now the reason we do that you'll see in a second. So yeah, let's go ahead and make this a 3D plane so we can get the grids right here. And let's click on it, transform, anchor point. And we're just gonna try to center it. You could get more precise, but for this it's just pretty quick, so let's just get it centered the best we can. So yeah, that's how the text look. And if you come down here, you'll see the coming soon. Now that text is just all white, which is fine, but it's kind of boring. So it's good to kind of add a gradient to it. So let's go to the actual one. This one right here is the composite shot, and this is the actual where you can edit the text. And let's go to effects, generate, and radial gradient. And as you can see, as soon as I put it, you kind of see the gradient and it looks pretty nice. So let's edit that a bit. The elliptical deformation, that's what we're going to be using. Again, I don't want it super noticeable, but just slightly, as you can see right here. Instead of being all white, you just kind of have a nice soft gradient going on. And you can adjust the center. Maybe make the top lighter or make the bottom lighter. I think about right here looks good. So coming soon. And the reason I made the composite shot is because if you don't make the composite shot and you try to move the title, for some reason the gradient doesn't move and it just kind of looks weird as the title moves. So that's why I made this. So when I move the title, it can stay on with it. Does that make sense? If not, don't worry about it. Let's keep on going. And yeah, so next thing we're going to need to do is animate the text. Alright, so before I forget, let's put this at 3D plane. We pretty much just want a camera in there. Sweet. So now let's go to views. Let's go to 2 views. So now you can see the top view with the camera and then with the text right here. So for this first keyframe, we're simply going to move it behind the camera. And then let's advance around 4 to 5 keyframes. And let's put it back. Let's go back to one view. And pretty much if I play it, then it looks like this. Which is what we want. Just a simple going down. And as we get closer, you can see that the edges are kind of pixelated. And an easy way to fix that is when you're making this text, just make it bigger so you can have more definition on it. But that won't matter because as soon as we turn on motion blur for that layer, it will look kind of different. So the blur will kind of erase any edges you would see on the text. But again, if you do want to make the text smoother when it's up close to the camera, then just go to the original one and make this text bigger. But anyways, yeah, let's proceed. And again, you can see the motion blur, how it really does add to the movement of it. But that's going to kind of slow the computer down a bit. So we'll save this for later. As for right now, just have the animation going. So yeah, so we got 2 things down, the background and the text. And now we go to the hard part, which is the particle engine. The particle engine is, again, I've said this many times, it's my favorite part of Hitfilm. There's so many great things you can do with it. So yeah, let's go ahead and do some experiments. And our experiment for today is we're going to make little white balls. Awesome. Actually, no, we are going to make real sparks out of those little white balls. So let's get to it. First thing we're going to do is let's try to time it. Actually, let's save the timing for later. Let me delete the text so the computer can perform faster. I don't know how fast you guys' computer are, but it's always good. Anyways, let's go to emitter and shape. For the shape, let's add a sphere. The reason for a sphere is that I want the sparks to kind of coming out around the text, and a point, which just means the spark come out at one little point, and I don't want that. And for the scale, you can see the text right here. And let's make the scale a bit bigger. So let's, about right here would be fine. And be sure to check boundary, so the particles go around it and not in it. So it kind of looks good. Let's go ahead and delete that again. So that's what it looks like. And for the trajectory, we want to put explode, because we really want those particles to be exploding out. That's how the sparks is going to be flying out pretty much. Alright, let's go to particle systems and general. And what we're going to need to do is keyframe it. Again, we don't want the particles to keep coming out. We pretty much just want sparks to fly out for maybe 2 frames at the most, and then they stop throwing. So let's go ahead and add that keyframe. Particle emitter in general. So let's go ahead and activate it. Put a keyframe on the active. And right before it, let's uncheck active, and then 2 frames forward, 1, 2, let's uncheck it again. So pretty much this is going to happen. It's just gonna emit new particles for a short amount of time, for like 2 frames, and then it stops. So that is what we want. And let's go to particles per second. We're gonna need a lot more sparks than this, so maybe, let's see, 600. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, I think that's enough sparks. Let's make it slightly bit more, 900. Keep in mind, 900 is not the actual number of it, it's just the actual number per second, and since we're only using 2 frames, it's not really gonna be 900, it's whatever. No point in trying to explain this. I'm sure you guys are smart enough to get it. So I keep trying to be so detailed, and I'm running out of time. 16 minutes on this tutorial already. Alright, so let's move on. Let's go to movement and speed. Now the speed is what's really going to make this work. We need those particles to really fly out of there. Let's test it. Yeah, that works pretty great. Maybe even too much speed. We'll see. Let's test it. Alright, yeah, that can work. If not, then we'll just go back and change it. And the next thing is for the acceleration. The acceleration is pretty much what is going to give us gravity. Let me reduce the speed slightly and pretty much keep taking this down. It's at 200. Let's minus 10,000. Let's see. And now when I play it, they come out and then they fall. And again, we can spend more time on this trying to customize it, but this is the basic idea. You need to have a lot of speed and then a lot of gravity, like put the acceleration down, so that when you play it, they just emit out and then they fall down like sparks. And these still don't really look like sparks, but we'll work on that. And for the scale, what I like to do is put the original scale at 0 and then go to movement variation and just kind of start adding the scale from there. That way, like, I have a lot more variation for the size of the particles, so not all of them are like the same size. And the speed is also good to add a little bit speed variation, since every one of them wouldn't fly out the same way. So that's what we have here. And again, still not very spark looking, and that is because there is no motion blur yet. As you can see, once I go to layer properties, put the motion blur, then you can see it starts looking more like sparks. and we can actually have a little bit more sparks in there. When dealing with motion blur, if you want your blur to be, I would say, to be longer, like if you want the streaks to be longer, all you need to do is go to properties, go to advanced, and then you can change the motion blur. I already changed it since I worked on it for the previous test, so I had it at 400 and negative 200, and I'm sure you probably have it at your thing right now at 180 and minus 90, so you can change it and put them higher if you want the streaks to be longer. I like it right now because these do kind of look like spark streak, like they're flying out. And the next thing we're going to do is to time it. So let's see when exactly does the text hit. So the text hit about right here for the next frame. So I'm going to select these and move it like this. And if I play it, then yeah, pretty much that's what we want. And the sparks doesn't look like sparks yet, so let's work on that right now. Let's make this into a composite shot, convert. And the reason for that is we're going to need to be grading the particles, since you can't really grade a particle layer, at least not in the way you would want to, so it's best to make it into a composite shot. As you can see in the main thing, it still looks like we did it, and then once we go back here, then this is just a composite shot. Let's go ahead and rename this sparks so we don't get confused later on. And let's put it a 3D plane, and yeah, that seems to be about what we wanted. So now let's go ahead and do the color grading. For color grading, let's go to stylize, glow. Let's put the radius all the way down, and let's put the intensity high. As you can see, the light is more shining now. Now let's go ahead and go to color wheels, and for the highlights, let's give the highlights some color. As you can see it right here, those are kind of starting to look more like sparks. Maybe up the lightness a bit, because all those white ones, the ones that are really bright, they should stay white. Because if you don't have it, then they're yellow, and if something is shining bright, it wouldn't be yellow, it would actually be white. So the really bright ones, it's fine if they're still white. And we can go to highlight, maybe add a little saturation there, and make it a little bit more orange. And yeah, so these now they look like a lot more like sparks. And one thing you can do depending on the situation is, let's put a blend on this, a screen, and then just duplicate the layer a couple times. Again, you don't have to do that, but depending on the situation, it can actually make the sparks pretty much look brighter. So we're pretty much almost done. The last two things we need, wow, this tutorial is so long. So the last two things we need is pretty much the camera shake. Let's go to generate. No, actually let's go to distort and shake. Before we do that, let's put a grade layer. And let's add the shake on there. In the shake, I really do like this plugin. It just makes everything kind of cooler, as you know, the movement is kind of going around. It kind of reminds me of the preset Twitch for After Effects, and I just really like it overall. As you can see, it's moving around, but there's a little bit too much motion blur. So let's go to the shake and motion blur, and let's just put this down a bit. Some motion blur is fine, but not too much. So about right here is good. I just realized that I need to retime this, the sparks. Yeah, they come out way too soon. Yeah, but right here is better. Just one frame, that was the problem. So yeah, where were we? Yes, the shake. And what we're going to want to do is for the impact, when the text slam on the wall, we're going to add like a lot of shake. So we're going to keyframe this, keyframe the amount pretty much. And let's see where the kind of starts about right here. So let's go one frame there and keyframe it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's add another keyframe. And then in the middle there, now we can really up the amount. Now when we play it, it goes, and then at the slam, it does kind of like add a lot more shake to the clip, and that really does really sell the effect of it actually slamming. And of course you could use like some sound effects to just kind of sell the effect a lot more. And I just think that just really adds so much more to it. So that's it for the shake. You can customize it better if you want. I mean, spend more time on it and things like that. But that's pretty much the technique. You know, you keyframe it and then you up the amount. You can experiment with the speed and different things like that, depending on the look you are going for. Now, the last thing we'll need to do is add a flare. As you can see in the preview clip I made, when it slams and the sparks come out, there's kind of like a flash that happens behind the text. So that's pretty much what we're going to be working on. So let's get a new layer. Let's name it flare. Make sure it's black. And for 1 second, let me disable the shake so that doesn't mess us up too much. Now let's go to the flare, generate, and it's going to be flare. Where are you? Light flares. Alright, and you can use different ones, but for this one I just use the flashlight LED. And let's drag this and put it somewhere in the middle there. Alright, so again, we're just going to need to keyframe this to match the action. So let's go ahead and go to global. Actually, no, let's go to hotspot. And let's add a keyframe to the brightness and the scale. First, let's try to work on the actual brightness and scale. About right here, I would say for the flash would be fine. The scale seems fine too. Let's go to global and change the color. Just change the hue. I want a more orange reddish, and decrease the saturation. So it's kind of white light, but not too white. It still kind of has the orange tint to it. And we pretty much want this to just happen for like maybe like 4 frames or so. Nothing that's going to stay for long. So let's go 1 frame before that. Oh. Wrong. Let's go 1 frame before that. Add the brightness. Add another keyframe. And for the brightness, let's just put it at 0. So pretty much this won't start until this happens. So this keyframe happens, and then, you know, and about right here, let's add 2 more keyframes. Let's go to the brightness and put it back down to 0. So pretty much the light happens and then it kind of slowly dies out. You can maybe make this a couple frames so it kind of starts lower and then gets bigger and then dies out again. And before I forget, this layer, we need to make it screen. so that you can actually see the background that we made earlier. So all in all, this is what we have so far. Let's go ahead and go to the coming soon, and let's add the motion blur. And yeah, so that is pretty much our effect. Oh, and turn on the shake. So yeah, that's pretty much the gist of it. And yeah, get hit filming and have a lot of fun. And again, if you want to check out the website, we have more Hitfilm things, and also I have my products here that I also sell. So if you see something you're interested in, be sure to check it out. So yeah, thanks for watching and have a nice day.